Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Healing Therapy Podcast. Here we are the three gents from, well, what can I say, from Khailami household at the University of the Free State. Welcome to the podcast. This is me, Mohale Matlala. My co-host is Phila and this is also Mpho Lekwa. Am I saying it right, Chief? Is it Lekwa, Lekua?
Yeah, man. This suit like it. There's always a W.
Lequads, is it?
Oh man, so I just want to take this moment to thank you guys for listening in. We are three people that really are introverted in nature, but we really love making jokes. So this is a chill podcast where we're going to be talking about multiple topics relating to poetry, anime, financial advice. We are people that have studied finance and
rocks.
Mpho, what did you study?
Rocks.
And rocks. May I remind everyone that Mpho graduated in a degree solely done by him. If that doesn't deserve an applause, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Legend.
Give this man his flowers, please. So yes, this is a podcast about finance and rocks.
Yeah.
And rocks. What a wow. So yeah, guys, like the biggest thing for us here is that we're going to be talking about poetry. We're going to be talking about a multitude of issues, mental health. But the biggest thing that we want to say here is that we are not experts. We are not licensed medical practitioners. We do not delve into those topics to the point where we give expert advice. If there's anything that we do say in the podcast that may trigger you, please seek medical, spiritual, or physical practitioners that are licensed that can actually assist you in whatever the situation is. But other than that, enjoy the show. We're going to be talking about a multitude of things, and yeah, come have a young Joel with us, guys. Abash.
Thank you, Tadaman. Thank you.
Much appreciated, Mohale. Thank you, guys. Now let's run it. We in here now, so Mohale, won't you start us off with our first cry session? I already have my tissues next to me, so run it.
I already have my tissues. I actually have to open and go find the poem itself. This is so daunting.
That gives me time to fetch my tissues. Right, hold on.
What are you doing, these guys? But like, we're starting on a light note, guys. Like, I didn't come all guns blazing or anything.
Okay, so we're going heavy towards the end. I got you. That's why I have the last one.
It's a very light-hearted poem. So yeah, it's quite short, but it might be impactful.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready?
No, ready, Papa. Hit us with it.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So the title of this poem by TheIntrovertedArtist is Giving Birth.
What's
She gave birth. Yeah, but and then?
No, I give it out now. What's all?
Yeah. We are artists. As artists, we give perspective in a lot of things, Chief.
All right. Give birth.
I'm gonna give birth. Oh my God. Giving birth by the introverted artist. She gave birth to you. Her blood, sweat, and tears were invested in the idea that you would bring meaning to her existence. She gave birth to you. Her screams for help fell on deaf's ear, known only by doctors and nurses that here near alone, with no hand to hold because daddy wasn't there, so she gave birth to you. She choked on her sighs of relief. Her body was battered and bruised, but she couldn't risk the thought of losing you. She gave birth to you. Even if your birth would put her in a tomb and leave her soul scattered in ruins, all she ever wanted was to see you escape her womb, so she gave birth to you. When she held you in her arms for the first time, her tears turned into a waterfall of joy. Thank heavens it's a baby boy. She gave birth to a boy. She gave birth to a man. She gave birth to a leader. She gave birth to Africa. Thank you.
Damn it.
She gave birth to you, Chief. Phila, what do you say about that, Chief? Since she gave birth to you till now, what do you say? No, give us Give us a review, Phila. She gave birth to you. You now know the experience. What do you say now after such a long time? How many years? How old are you, Phila? 16.
I'm 25, dog. I actually have like a story about this one because now you're reminding me of like something my mom and my grand told me. I think when I was 15, they used to tell me shit like, "Hey, chief, your ass almost died when you were young," and I'm like, "Okay, what the hell happened?" During birth,
Yeah,
you weren't breathing. Like they hooked you up to oxygen tanks and shit like that, and you were like technically breathing, but not of your own volition. So
Yeah.
the power of prayer is a beautiful thing, guys, because I know my mom was praying out of her mind for the past few days for my health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the part that kills me is that my grand just rocks up. She's tired of this shit at this point. She's like, "Yeah, chief, die if you die, live if you live. I'm tired of this nonsense.
Make a choice."
With my life." And ironically, that's where my name comes from.
Yeah.
Phila, to live.
Yeah.
So
Easy
like,
to live.
so I love like the portrayal of like being birthed and like seeing it from her perspective and like, oh, bro, it's such a beautiful ass poem. And you were like, we're starting light,
Yeah.
this nigga. We're gonna die by the time we get to my poem.
No, but it's also beautiful. It's also beautiful because Phila, with you, it's a struggle of health. You started, struggling with health. Me and I, it was a struggle of fatherhood. Like he wasn't there, bruh. Like nigga, like you tapped into that shit. Like I'm hurt that I didn't get my tissues earlier on, dog. I'm like literally wiping my face with pages, dude. Yo. Yeah, so that's
like it's so layered and so short at the same time. Like I fucking love it. Depending on like which side that you want to focus on, and then you ended beautifully by mentioning us as like a continent, as Africa.
Yeah.
You birthed the fucking continent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, the Mohale, if she birthed the continent, if she had the power to birth the continent, no, listen to this shit. Listen to this ish, dog. If she had the power to birth Africa, is she not God?
Like that's the thing. Like the perspective I used in this poem, guys. Just disclaimer. I wrote this in 2017, 2016. So it's quite an old poem, né?
Yeah.
So I might mix certain things, but like the concept I was going for is that like as much as yes, nothing would deem like God is God, né?
Yeah.
But like my view is that women are God. They literally have the power of creation within their womb.
Yeah.
And we are not here if without them, you understand. So to a certain degree, women are God, and you hear with feminists in society now that they portray them, not portray, but then like they liken themselves to gods, like they're like like we have the power to end the human race, technically speaking, if we all choose the euthanization plan, and we're like, nah, if these niggas, they can choose to be like, nah.
Spoilers for Attack on Titan.
Oh, my bad.
Spoilers for Attack on
So, like, my perspective was like, they have the power to create Africa, and Africa is the beginning of the world.
Yeah.
So that was the mindset when I was writing the poem.
Wow, that was beautiful, dog. Yo.
It's amazing, dude.
One Lisa,
No, but it's lighthearted. It's nothing hectic. There's still hectic things coming.
Now I would like to excuse myself from this podcast going forward. my heart cannot take any heavier things.
It's about to get real. It's about to get real.
One thing that I just want to highlight, is like on my side, like you guys were talking about your sides, like Peter said, how there were complications with his like oxygen and breathing, and Mpho talked about the father side of it. Like one thing that I want to highlight in the poem is that more often than not, we find that especially in our generation, when we as like I can't run away, we're under the age of 27, so like more often than not, when a male gent has intercourse with a lady and then she cannot abort the child, we tend to leave her to abort the child or go through the whole pregnancy and everything. Then eventually she gives birth. but more often than not, the father is not present at that moment. So I highlight that in this poem where I'm like, she gave birth to you. Her screams fell on death's ear because the father wasn't there. Known only by the doctors and nurses that were near, alone, with no hand to hold because daddy wasn't there. And I think that's the sad reality about like our generation, not just our generation, but like what's happening in society right now, that when the father isn't there, like there's no one to hold and comfort the mother in that situation. So yeah, that's I just wanted to highlight that.
You literally just reminded me of something. Like, there's a song by J. Cole back like in his first album called Lost Ones.
Yeah.
You guys really need to listen to that one like after we finish this podcast, because I think like it delves into this poem in depth, because like it expands on every single part that you've mentioned now on steroids, because the first verse is he literally talks from like the male perspective. He's like, baby girl, I can't imagine what it's like for you. I got you pregnant, and now inside there is a life in you. So they're talking about this, and he's like, logistically speaking, trying to figure out like, hey, brah, I don't have a job. We're in our early 20s. You're about to have a baby. Where am I going to get that money? I refuse to let my boy or girl be raised in a situation where I don't have anything to provide for him. So that was his like stance. Then verse 2, he claps back with the female perspective, and she's like, brah, fuck you. You're all talking that good shit a second ago when you were hitting it. Now that our girl gotten pregnant, you want to walk away? Fuck that. I was raised by a single mom. I don't need your ass. Like that type of thing, where she's like, clearly this is how you act. You got what you wanted, and now you won't help me face this responsibility together. What type of man are you? That type of vibes, you know? Then the final verse came where he's like, as a narrator now, peering into like this situation where he's like, okay, this is kind of fucked up, guys, if you really think about this. And like how niggas like to push off girls after this shit happens, saying that, nah, she crazy, dun. That baby ain't mine. If really that baby's mine, tell her to get an abortion, dun. But then he leaves us with this question for the guys. If she should get an abortion, what about your seed? What about your responsibility in this situation? That was like a powerful way like to end this thing. However, Karma, I'd also like to preface who's this guy? Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Very, very controversial comedian. And he also talks unbelievably controversial. But funny as hell, Shem. It's from one of his like latest specials back in like either the 2010s or like here 2021, yeah? And he talks about this issue where he's like, Majida, guys, in all fairness, this is her body. This is a woman's body. We ain't got shit to say that side.
Yeah.
How she wants to handle the situation is up to her. And he's like, and he prefaces this by saying, I'll have you know, I am not for abortion. And I'm also not against abortion. So we're like, okay, where exactly are you going with this? And then in the Dave Chappelle manner, he's like, okay, Mandon, we'll leave it to you for like this decision. If like you can, you know, decide to kill or keep the baby. However, should you decide to keep the baby, myself as a man should have the option to want nothing to do with that baby.
I remember that episode.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Yeah. He explains also, hey chief, this is also my decision. You know? You didn't counsel me when you were doing this Shandis. If you went the abortion route, the least I can do is give you money for that shit. And I'm like, wow, this nigga. But yeah, there's always two sides to this thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents on this. It's a very beautiful poem. Great way to start, actually.
Sure.
Danko means thank you.
Awesome.
Excellent. Very, very good. Yeah. And like tying into like how this lady birthed a whole continent, let's talk about families for a second.
Okay.
Because from like Africans, I feel like the three of us in this room, especially South Africans and like black people at most, should understand the concept of black tax. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Are you talking about emotional black tax, financial black tax, or spiritual black?
Oh, we're gonna get to that. There's a lot.
Because there's quite a lot of
but
it.
Essentially, I remember when I was like in my first job, working for insurance for like the first time, and like leading up to like the first paycheck, I was always told ish like, oh yeah, you do know like first paycheck has to go back home, first paycheck, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind, but there seems to be like this young stigma behind it, like the whole black tax thing, both financially and emotionally,
And spiritually too.
and spiritually as well. So that's like, what's your guys' take on black tax? Because this seems like a inherently unique situation only due to us as Africans. So I want to hear from you guys. What's your thought on this?
The ideologies of where it came from.
Not all at once now, guys.
Yeah? Hold on, nigga.
Not all at once now.
I'm already talking about it. What? Can't you hear me?
No, I'm cool that you continue.
All right. No, I'm just, you posed the question. I just wanted to think about it for a bit. But like its roots, bro. Like if you look at our history, dog, I doubt its roots were based on anything negative or anything to deprive the child of their, enjoyment of their success or whatever. Literally, in the olden days, if you got a job and you were getting paid quite well, you were more than happy to help your family. Like that was, I believe, that's where it came from, and that's really what it was. But now it has become privilege and pride, where one family is like, hey man, we are living comfortably. Your father is working as a doctor. Your mother is a lecturer or whatever. But us as African have the responsibility to contribute to our families. So when you start, your from like your very first salary has to come home, not just as support for your family or your mother and father, but as a reflection or as a thanks to your ancestors, both living ancestors and dead ancestors, to just say, I appreciate where I am right now, and this is my contribution to you. And like that's what it, for me, that's what it represents, and that's how I've always thought about it. But it's definitely different when a family goes, hey man, you're working, we want your money, 10%, it must come home, That's a whole other different story.
Yeah, because now it's not rooted, because those roots that you mentioned before, now they just want to use your funds.
But for money, yeah, that's all it is, yeah.
But Mohale, go on.
I think I hear where Mpho is coming from, and I think I want to add to that, because like I think it has evolved into something different. Yeah, I think not to throw a different topic altogether, but like I also think like the same way with Lobola, it has also evolved into something different from where its roots actually are. I'm actually hearing myself twice.
Yeah, you're doubling.
Okay.
But you're fine now.
Okay, so like the initial idea of it, I'm going to take off my headphones because I'm hearing myself double and it's actually distracting.
Yeah.
So the initial roots of it are good. Like right now, I'm in the midst of a little bit of Africanism, spirituality, realization thingy. I don't know what to call it, but like I'm going back to my roots to a certain degree, and I'm learning things that I didn't learn when I was a kid. And like the spiritual part of giving of bringing back your first salary, it's a thank you to your ancestors as well, to be like, because like in terms of spirituality is a very layered subject, because like if you think about it logically, the same way you thank God for getting a new job, like your ancestors have a hand in getting you the job as well. And to a certain degree, if you don't respect them and thank them for getting you to the point where you can get a job, things can turn pear-shaped very quickly, So like the roots of it is to thank your ancestors and thank your family as well, living and deceased, like Mpho said. So the roots of it are good in nature. But the problem now comes when families, like the living people, want to use it for their own gain. Like, for example, there was a situation where I was reading this article where this person was being exploited by a family. So she earned decent money. Let's say, for example, she was earning around 50,000 per month taking home 30,000 per month. So now she was the only one working in her household. So let's, for example, say there are 5 people in the household. So she's bringing all the income inside the household. But now there's a child, there's a let's say the uncle's daughter lives in that household as well. But now this uncle's daughter in the household is going to university, but she's not doing well in university. She goes out, she parties, she drinks, but she always asks the sister for money, like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this. So she's literally feeling the pressure of black tax in that situation. But this girl she's not pulling her weight in terms of her studies. So she comes home after first year, she failed all her subjects. So now it brings the question, like, as much as I want to assist you and to get your degree, you're wasting my money. And every time when the sister wants to tell the parents, oh guys, I can't keep paying for her school fees when she's failing like this because it's putting a burden on me. And then the family is like, Emma, you can't stop because you need to assist your family. So now it's having it's starting to have like a negative connotation because now it's literally tax. It's taxing you physically, emotionally, psychologically to the point where you want, because like in the article, this person is like, now I want to commit suicide. I want to out myself because I can't deal with this. I can't win. Because if she loses a job or she leaves her job, she'll be down with all the psychological, mental, and physical strain that she's going through. But now the whole household suffers from the situation that she's in. But now she's not surviving. She's not living life. She's literally in a constant zombie state. So I think black tax is like the word black tax. If we go back to its original roots, it's a very good thing and it's positive and it's a necessary spiritual and a traditional aspect that should be continued. But the moment it has negative connotations where there's expectations that come from the family, that's when it becomes an extremely problematic thing. Personally, for me, I do not like it. I do not want to participate in it. But because of the religious journey that I'm going through, the traditional journey I'm going through currently, I want to learn about these things and it might change my opinion, But I don't want to lie, I do not like the term black tax at all.
I completely agree with you on that one. Like, I hate the phrase black tax because of the connotations that come with it. You know what I mean? Because, like, I first experienced this when I was literally a student. One of my last years as like a student, and then I started working. Then all this pressure suddenly came from like my family side. Ironically, not from my mom directly, but from the people around me saying like, no, you need to give cash back. You need to like provide and and all that ish. Yeah, my mom was just on some, bro, focus on you. Now, I'm not really in a rush for your money or any kind of nonsense like that. So that did put at least some sort of comfort in me that like she knew the roots of this thing and wasn't trying to like leverage this for her own gain. You know what I mean? And then now, as like I've been working for like the past, I think this will be year 4 now, and I start to understand why this whole thing is still a thing right now. Like, it is good to give back to your family every once in a while, but it shouldn't be like mandatory, where like you're the only one who needs to give back to us, because now that's way too much pressure. I might even consider suicide and stuff like that, like you mentioned in like that report that you found. It's very scary to like think about how our parents before us had to deal with this much pressure, and like they just find it normal to like just shift it along to like the next generation and stuff like that. So it's something generally that we need to talk about. But leading into now the second part of like this black text thing, our communication with our parents and like our older relatives. I can't speak for all of us, but I do know for me mostly it was always one-sided, and that was like the core factor that made things so difficult to just openly talk about things like finances, things like mental health and emotions. There's also that stereotype about how guys aren't supposed to talk about, emotions and feelings, but we'll also get to that. But yeah, that's corny. It's very hard to like reciprocate and talk to your parents and be like, hey yo, I don't like when you do this, this and this. It makes me feel like this, this and this. Automatically they'll look you and say, man, when I don't talk to your
Parents,
folks like that, what the hell's wrong with you? That type of issue, So there's this weird little like control-esque situation going on with that connotation, black text that I'm very uncomfortable with because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to get that out the way, and I'm gonna write that for a paper later.
Nah, bro, you wanted to get it off your chest. We get it.
Off your chest.
I needed to. I just needed to. But yeah, I would love in the near future where like parents and like their kids can be open. Yeah. Especially now when like their kids hit their 20s, when they're like being thrown out in the world and stuff like that. Yeah. I always used to want to like live on my own until I realized coming back home might have been the best decision in my life, because now I get to understand a lot more of what my parents might have been going through at the time and how like that directly relates to me in certain situations. So talk to your folks, guys.
No, definitely, bro.
Hey, Papa.
Hey, man, can you go read? Listen, I think it's important to realize the suffering in the family, and as a working individual in the family, you need to provide to that. And I want to say that one should just provide to their mothers, and a mother can be a father too, because some fathers really are there as a mother and a father. So if you have that relationship with your parent and you are like ma noma ubaba, that I think it also goes back to communication, where you're like, this is my father, this is my mother, and I literally am committed to giving her this much every single month of my life. I think if you have a conversation with yourself and you your heart is open to it, because almost every time when you give money with a closed heart, it's gonna cause damage. It's gonna go back to the fact that like the example you used, Oman Mohale, this person is not finishing a school, so me giving money right now is just depriving me. So just you closing your heart, it's never gonna allow that space that kid will pass or will change their minds about passing. It's just gonna create negativity holistically in the universe. Remember, your heart is the universe. Everything that you think about, like that you feel, is what the universe incurs in you. So it's just, I don't know. It's like, if you are able to, then do so, but don't do it with force, or don't do it like with damage to your heart and soul. Just don't do it. If it doesn't happen, if there's pressure from your family, cut them off, dog. Like, they are not good for your soul. Just cut them off. Go into the section of the family where you are appreciated, where money isn't your presence. When you arrive as yourself, and money is maybe a secondary thing that they think, like, oh shit, nigga, aren't you a doctor or something? Yeah. Hey, how's that going? That type of conversation where you're like, my existence is not based on like material things.
The financial gain, the financial gain that's going to get from you. I get you.
Yeah, my existence is based on myself. Or is based on my presence being here. Yeah. So I think the whole black text thing, Fit, it's a very controversial topic, bro. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical. Like you were saying, person nearly killed himself. Probably people kill themselves because of that. But yeah, it's quite emotional. But thanks, Phila, for unraveling our minds at such a painful topic.
This is what I do.
Yeah.
That's how black text, man.
But I do love that how you ended on that point. Like, if you're going to do it with an open heart. Do it because you want to do it. That you want to help out your people. And that's
because like the key thing also is like energy. Like the same thing in person is like the energy is very important in this world. Like if you give something from a negative energy point of view, you will receive. Like I firmly believe in like whatever you put into the world is what you receive back.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna do charitable things, like in this case, black tax would be like a charitable thing. If you're gonna do charitable things with the idea of gaining something in future, you're gonna get a negative response back from the world, from the universe.
Exactly.
So like just adding on to that, just as long as you do it from an open heart without expecting anything in return. Then it's fine. But the biggest issue is that expectation becomes the problem. But yeah, I agree with you fully, Chief. Like you know that statement where somebody says, well, like when you make it, please don't forget us. Me, when I make it, I'm gonna forget all of them.
Do you realize the only person Casper University remembered when he got rich was his mother?
Listen. That boy was raised right. Remember your mother, forget everybody else.
Obviously, he had a section of his life where it wasn't his mother, but then as soon as he got the chance, he was like, "Hey, mom, lady try." But obviously, he had to have fun first. He was like, "Hey, I need to just spend a couple of months first, and then okay, mom, lady, okay,
Naturally, homie has to wild out. And at the same time, also think about his future and like his mom as well. Which also brings me to another topic.
Before you get to that topic, Chief, wait. Guys, we need to respect Casper Neves. That nigga is business minded as hell. He didn't finish matriculation, but he is extremely smart. Like just to have a little section here, you understand what he did with Slick Talk with the boxing match. This nigga literally sponsored that boxing match out of his own pocket. He gave that nigga 100,000 just so he can get future investments from huge corporations in the boxing industry that was dying out in South Africa. So this nigga is gonna make millions from paying an outlay of 100,000, and now he's getting sponsorships.
Really ahead,
So literally, all he did was plant a seed, and now it's literally you have a Blumpy now, and literally on the Akiti, when in April when he's fighting Nap Music, he's gonna have like an entire tree already. Like just give Casper his flowers, guys. Legend, that guy.
Asham, he deserves it. He's really like reinvigorating a dying section of like the con, like shout outs to him, Sham, for real. That being said, I will be there watching musicians kick the crap out of each other, and I will enjoy
it. Maybe we should take the whole podcast there and just talk about that podcast.
Commentators, nigga, we'll be there.
Listen,
Did it really slap him in the face? Did it?
Guys, I wish y'all understood this concept because like Xhosa commentary during sports events is the funniest shit you will ever hear in your life.
Also, guys, we're multilingual. Phila, you'll do Xhosa, I'll come in with Sotho. When under the mal you come in with Tswana, it doesn't matter. And then a bit of Afrikaans, we are there on smooth bra. On Skom.
We are there. Who speaks Afrikaans?
I'll speak Afrikaans. Murem up the cop.
Nah, it must happen. Let's make it happen, guys.
That'll be a nice special for the podcast. I'm for it.
But like, shout out to everyone who's making money, dog. I think that's also one thing that Mohale that we wanted to talk about was finances, man. We obviously won't tap into it that much right now, but just understanding everything that has to go into being financially free, dog. I know it's hard work, and people have to like get out of the concept you'll just get rich today, Kaloto. You will never get rich, Kaloto. Even if I give you $1 million today, tomorrow you'll still be poor. It's that sort of mentality how people get rich now that deprives our society, dog. So like like people who have a mindset like Casper, like those people make it like big time. Be it just in like the rap music, housing, anything, like even the boxing match that you talk about. That's an investment, bro, and we need to understand the logistics of that.
Yeah, literally. Like the key thing for me is that like he saw it as an investment himself. Like for example, like I think it's very clear that people must understand how I am studying accounting. I have accounting knowledge. Phila studied investment, so he has an investment knowledge. Like financial literacy is extremely important in our day and age. Like how many times have we seen people make a lot of money and then literally end up blowing it in like for example there was this music show I forgot what it was called, but it was like AKA was one of the people on the panel, and like the winner gets a deal to sign under his record label, and then they get 200,000 my bad, 200,000. The winner of the second show, the winner of the second season of the show was Flex Rabanya, the guy that sang the song Rabayis. I'm sure you guys might have heard about him. This was like around 2018, 2019 now. Flex won, he chose not to sign the record deal, and he just wanted the money and then bounce type situation. He spent that 200,000 in literally 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, that 200,000 was gone. He had finished it, and he had no credible thing to look at. He had no asset to look at and be like, hey man, nah, this is where the 200,000 went. You know. And I think that's the sad reality of South Africa is like, hey man, now once you make a huge amount of money, yes, it's capital needs and you won't be taxed on that amount when it gets into your bank account. But then you use it recklessly, and it's like, bruh. So, like, even like there's a show, I blew it, and we find people that want the lotto to have like only 5 million, and then in like 2 years' time, the 5 million is gone. He still stays in a shack. It's sad to see because we have people that did finances, and you just did like, but all you need to do is like have certain. What can I say? Like you just have to have certain methodologies that will instill in you to not spend money recklessly. Like for example, me, I have a 10% instant gratification policy. Like if I make 1,000 rand today, 10% of that I'm entitled to spend on whatever I want. And then 90% of it I use on delayed gratification. So that 90% I will invest it, I'll buy groceries or something that I can point at and be like, hey man, this is what I got from that 1,000 rand. So it's like small little things like that in financial literacy that can actually put you ahead, you know?
You said that the guy had won a lot of money. What is a lot of money?
200. Okay, obviously.
Can I interject here before you continue?
Okay.
Because like I wanted to answer that particular section where like y'all know I work in the financial industry.
Yes, but we know you got money.
And I'm learning every single day, man, that like money ain't worth what it's used to. It's getting less and less more valuable in the sense that like
time value of money.
In the sense that like 1 million rand isn't worth what it used to be anymore, and that's kind of sad when you think about it. Because like I know some people can do a lot with 1 million, but generally speaking, if like you give someone 1 million rand, that issue will be gone within a month time. And like on reckless stuff like that. No, we're not even talking about savings. We're not talking about houses or cars and shit. Like just reckless spending, and it's sad. And ironically, that's what's pushing our inflation rate even further, causing the 1 million rand to be worth even less now. Like it's a spiraling like vicious cycle that we've fallen ourselves into.
Phil,
sad if you think about it. Because I know,
if I was to give you 1 million rand right now, what would you do with it?
Well, first and foremost, because this has been beaten into me since I started working for insurance companies. They're like, number one, spend.
No, not as a professional.
Yourself.
You as Phila, or what would you do with $1 million?
Oh, if we're speaking off the record, I would buy a house, I would buy a car, I'd buy a record label, and start making some music.
And which of those are your assets, and which of those are your liabilities?
Well, my house is my asset.
Why would you think your house is your asset?
Because I can rent it out.
Are you buying it to rent it out or to stay in it?
Do the both.
Like I hear what you're saying there, and automatically my tax brain is like, okay, there are issues all around.
No, you will.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, yeah, continue.
Yeah, but since we are talking of like the first instinct, what do I want to do with $1 million? Naturally, now in my financial brain, I'm like, blow that shit, buy a house, buy a car, buy a record label, and start recording music. But then now I start getting drilled in because this thing takes time. It's not gonna be like an overnight ish where like if someone wins $1 million, it'd be like, hey, you stop, invest your money. He's like, oh no, I get it now. Fuck that shit, nigga. I'm out to eat this money. Like it's not gonna be an overnight type of thing. But I feel like we need to get into these conversations more. Try and convince as many people as we can, so we can at least try and help out, with like that regard. But from a professional standpoint, first thing they always tell you is that, and I love how they phrase it. They say, you need to pay yourself. What do I mean when I say pay yourself? I mean save that money. First and foremost, that's where you need to start. Because if shit hits the fan, and it most certainly will, because I know Mohale is waiting there with his tax implications of our house, start saving first, and then do whatever you want. We know as like financial advisors that there is always going to be this impulse where you want to wreck shit and blow like your money out because it's your money. You're extremely lucky, or you work hard and you just want to enjoy your funds.
Night shift, bruh. Night shift.
Yeah, so what we're trying to say is that like we're trying to elongate your money so that you can enjoy it a lot longer. So that means making temporary sacrifices now to reap the rewards for the foreseeable future.
Pills. Under them, I don't know if you wanted to speak about your text quickly.
Oh no, it's fine. It becomes a very lengthy discussion. But my point is, the one I wanted to say is that if he's going to be renting, the accounting implications is that we'll be seeing it as an asset in capital nature. But if he's going to also be staying there and renting the place, it becomes tricky for tax purposes, and it becomes an issue. But it becomes a discussion at tax, and I don't want it to go that way, so it's fine.
Hey man, if I can confuse SARS, then I'm for it.
And SARS be like, oh, alright, we're coming for you.
I shouldn't even be saying this because I'm still trying to get it.
Alright, it's obviously a joke. It is obviously a joke.
It starts and
I love
SARS, please.
I love SARS.
Like we're looking for sponsorships as well. So Saika SARS, if you want to sponsor the podcast, hit me up 06315.
I love how the minute this episode goes up, someone's gonna be there tracking. He said, "What? This is live?"
We hear he's handsome.
Oh yeah.
They'll be listening, eagle-eared, ready. Write that down.
You know what's crazy? Like I was talking to some friends of mine recently, and like a friend of mine in our team got into a long-term relationship recently, and we're all happy for him. So Huey hits everybody up. Is like, yo guys, literally in the squad there are 3 people that are in relationships. It's him, Vuli, and Mohale, as in me. So now these niggas are like, I hear you, but the problem is Mohale can leave at any moment. Like, this nigga can leave the relationship at any moment. It's like, I don't trust that. And I'm like, hey, how? Guys, like, what makes you think you can't trust me? It's like, nah, you got pre-nigga syndrome, right? I'm like, fuck you, nigga.
They're not wrong.
Phila.
I mean, they're not wrong.
Phila, do you remember when we went to a pizza place, dog? Like, I don't remember if it was Debonair's or whatever. Panarotis.
Night.
I can't remember exactly the night, but I remember there was this waitress.
Was it Panarotis? I don't think it was Panarotis. We were at Spur.
Were we at Spur? Either way,
it's a pizza place, most, but yeah.
Either way, there was food being served to us by a specific person, a lady, to be specific.
I have a weird feeling I know where the story is going.
You know the story. Even Mohale is already laughing in his mind about the story.
The This was definitely Spur.
It was
Yeah,
Spur. It was Spur. This lady comes up, looks Mohale straight in the eye.
Yep.
And she goes, you know, I don't like serving people more pretty than I am. I'm like, yo.
No, sir. I remember that day because, like,
Phila, that's not exactly what she said. Please.
No, I want to.
No, like that's the gist of it.
Checker, please give it
I want to
straight how it was.
explain this because it's one of my most favorite stories with these niggas. I swear we need to get Sia on the podcast because he was also part of the shenanigans that night. And Zipper also, if we can find him. But essentially,
We can't find that
remember
nigga. I tried to find that nigga. We can't find him.
We'll track him down. I know.
Kumbele kaya, Chifu. Kumbele kaya. And it
No,
was
we need to
really
be
important
clever.
because we were Kayalani. So Kumbele kaya must come
No,
back.
we must use Utatako. Some beautiful researchers that said one of us needs to lie and be like, I lost my father. His name is Zipumas Bugo. Last time he was in KZN. I don't know where this guy's doing things. We need him for a podcast episode next week. But essentially that night, I remember, because Mpho called me up. I think he called Mohale up as well. No, and I brought Sia along. So you went shopping with Uzipo.
Yes,
And, like,
that's when I
Pick n
got that
Pay.
money, that bursary money.
So you were flexing on us. I see you.
I wanted to bless my ancestors.
See, you took my advice. You must spend on yourself first.
You must pay yourself.
You must pay yourself first.
Yeah.
But anyways, so you and Zippo went out shopping, got some groceries, and you're like, fuck it, let me call these boys. They must be starving as hell just eating bread with freaking spices. So we answered the call, met your ass at Spa. So then we helped you out with like the grocery bags. We came in Gingok. And upon meeting that poor waitress, oh my god, the first lines that came out of your mouth and paw was, and I quote, I'll see you, excuse me, ne? Do we get half price if we bring our own ingredients? We got potatoes in here, I got mince in here, I got veggies. What else y'all got in that bitch? No. And I feel like that was the beginning of the end.
Of the crazy night.
Because immediately after that, when like we ordered our food, Sia was like, nah, screw this, I'm gonna go get my own drink. And then he went out and we're all on some, okay, we happy. He goes to Pick n Pay, buys a certain type of drink. All Africans know this one. He comes back with like a big ass container of Mohale. And we're like, this nigga.
But they don't serve it as fair though. Yeah.
Yo, I was like, hey, and I'm like, waitress, bring us a glass. And she's like, oh Lord.
I personally believe we made that lady's life. Like
I made her life though.
she left that place like, yo, these guys are fucking crazy. And like it was all the small little things. Like at some point, instead of doing her work, she just came and sat with us for like 5 minutes just to understand the dynamic here.
Right, sir, because we invited her. We were like, she came and checked us and was like, is your food okay? And we were like, hey, yeah, we're good. As a matter of fact, come join us. And she sat with us. That's why I didn't go with that convo happened.
And then she looked at me, then I'm eating, I'm like, what's going on?
What the hell?
She's like, I don't like, I remember, she's like, I don't like you. And I'm like, what did I do? And she's like, yeah, see, I don't like people that look better than me, that look cuter than me. So I'm like, bah. Like, am I supposed to be sorry for my looks? Like, sorry, father. Sorry, mother. You fucked me up.
I love the fact that a whole chick came at you and was like, I don't like you because you're prettier than me.
My God.
Wow. Yeah, that was one hell of a night. I loved going out with y'all niggas. That was fun. We need to do that again.
No, definitely. So again, April, there by Knock Music versus Caspanio West.
We are there, Pop.
Santa Fe.
We are there, but just in case someone fact checks me later on, we shall check local listings for time and availability.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So at this point, I want to hear who lost the rock, paper, and scissors, because I want to know who's the boss and grace us with another poem. I think I need to make them cry.
I'm here, dog. Give me a drum roll, dog. Yeah. I'd stop it. That is enough. Thank you very much. All right. So a bit of context, now. I'm trying to write a book about my mother. Okay.
Oh,
So
dope.
yeah.
And immediately this got even deeper.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I'm gonna write something about someone I care about, I gotta learn how to write, right? So that's the first part. So I hit up this other, let's just call it a varsity online. Okay. I go there, I get a course, I get an
Must
amazing.
mention the name when so we can get
Yeah.
sponsored by them.
Yes, name and shame, Chief. Abash.
All right, no, the varsity online is Domestica.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So they are changing my mindset, bro, about everything. So anyway, one of their courses, I'm very sorry I forgot the guy's name. Only in 2 episodes, like 2 lessons of his. I'm sure I'll learn his name as I go along. So now I'm in there and he's showing us how to write and giving us different perspectives of how to write and place yourself in the situation, place a pronoun in the situation, place a we, a he, an I, that type of thing. And then he goes further and says, while you do that, place a tense in it. That's when shit got wild. Because
Okay.
I wrote in the present tense when I was writing my first piece of whatever I was writing. And I was quite asleep when I was doing it. It was like yesterday, at this morning, like 1 o'clock, I was doing this shit. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going through this. So I was a bit asleep, and then he changed. He said, "Write what you wrote in present tense in past tense," and this is what I'm gonna share now.
Okay.
So the topic for it says, I had a terrible experience already. Then it goes, I was doing my job, not minding God, and then I started hearing something that brought him to my attention. I looked up and the high walls around me had started moving. I blinked 4 times just to make sure. 4 times because I had no extra time for the 5th. The next time I closed my eyes was 3 days later when the rescue team had found one of my friends under the rubble. Rest in peace. And that's where I ended it, because we had like 3 minutes to write that. Yeah.
Yes.
Like just to say something. Like I remember this story because I was in Joburg at the time, and I remember I got a call from you. You were like, "Young Chief, I got this call at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't ask me what I was doing at 2 o'clock in the morning. Some of us are not but I got a call from Mpho at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was like, "Chief, are you in Joburg?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm at my place." I think I was studying for a paper.
Yeah.
But he's like, "I'm on my way." So in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm like, this nigga is going from another province to another province at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he specifies, it's like, I'm coming, I'll be there at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I'm like, this nigga is driving through the night. So I remember the situation well. So yeah, let me leave it at this so you can continue, because I don't want to spoil if you would explain the situation or not. But yeah, it's very layered. Yeah.
No, it's heavily layered. That's where I ended it, because that's the story. That's where my friend's story ended, in my mind. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, rest in peace, dog. Like that's literally where it ended. We're at a point where we are building a friendship in a workplace, and then like literally 3 days later, the guy's non-existent. Yeah. So that's. I was playing around a lot of that, because I'm still going through the process of accepting that the incident happened. This is just a piece of what happened. Like Mohale was explaining now, there was a whole traveling back to Joburg at night. There was a whole girlfriend being there, the mother, the parents kind of coming in. There was a whole situation around it, But I picked this part just for my psychology, just for me to be, or to make sure that my psychology is accepting that such a thing did happen in my life, So yeah, but that's where I ended it.
So am I right to say you're using this as a clutch? Like so in terms of psychology, don't quote me on this because I did not study psychology, but I read a lot about psychology. So in psychology, there are situations where somebody goes through a traumatic experience, and in that traumatic experience they literally choose, like they hardwire their brain to forget a situation. They literally they destroy the existence of that specific thing.
Yes.
And to a certain degree it comes off like the person is being oblivious to the situation that happened, but mentally their brain has destroyed the evidence of that thing happening. So am I right to say that you're using this platform right now specifically to make sure that you etch that into your brain, that doesn't disappear from your brain? Is that how you're hardwiring it right now?
Why you gotta be in my brain, bruh? Like, anyway, but
I guess you hit it spot on.
Yeah, you're right, man. So after the incident, I went to Joburg, and I think, Oman Mohale, that's the first time you and I hugged. It was a bit weird, but I loved every moment of it. And then I
had to wake up in the morning and make oats because
because that shit was heavy, dog. So after that, I went to my girlfriend's place and then came back to the situation after like 5 days, I think. And then when I arrived, they told me I had a meeting with a psychologist. So she literally she said exactly what you said, and that, the experience you had 3 days ago. I'm like, what experience? She's like, exactly, you are trying to suppress that experience because it's one of the most painful experiences you'll ever experience in your life. Like, you lost your life, first thing. Second thing, you did lose people. And then third thing, you had people who survived the incident with you. So that whole thing, you are gonna try and suppress this painful memory down in your soul, bruh. You are gonna try the hardest to suppress it. And then I'm like, bitch, watch me. I'm not gonna suppress it. I'm gonna live this shit. So every chance I get to discuss it, I do it. Like, I was writing. So this is not the only piece I wrote yesterday. I was kind of going through a lot of instances. So as the guy was talking, I was going through different instances. And then when you said write about your past or your, something you have experienced as a child, I'm like, I was still a child then. I grew up immediately. So that kind of thought process came into my mind. Then I wrote this piece. I think going back in the Mohale, the psychologist was like, you're gonna try and suppress it, but I challenged my mind not to, so that I can be okay with what happened. That's exactly what that was. And yes, I'm using this platform to do so right now as we speak.
I am proud
I think all the listeners right now, I would like you guys to clap your hands. It's a very brave thing for a person to go through something that's extremely traumatic and be willing to go through the emotions. I'm not sure if everybody has experienced this, but when you've been in an extremely traumatic situation, you try your hardest to run away from it, and Mpho right now is facing it head on. So kudos, bro. Like, shout out to you. I wanna edit
well done.
clapping in the background and shit.
Yeah, no, do that, bruh. Do that. Like, do a whole Super Bowl type clapping shit. Whoa.
Yeah. I'm just gonna insert that meme of that kid that's just like, I'm just gonna insert it. Just.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I am super proud of you because, like, Nyan, the first instinct is for us to, like, run from anything that's, like, either uncomfortable or unbelievably difficult.
Yeah.
So, like, this is, like, a very good step that you've taken so far.
Yeah.
With whatever platform you decided to put it on, the fact that you're talking about it should at least put some more ease with you as well.
Yeah. And, like, I was thinking about it this month. That's basically this is one of the reasons why I was a bit quiet this morning, because I thought of myself, like, I literally, when I was telling you that I have 2 pieces to share, I was like, you motherfucker, why don't you just say you have 1 piece to share? Because it was hard, dog. It was hard to come to that thing. I really want, to be. This is part of my life. This is what I've experienced, and if I can share it at any moment to assist the next person, or even to assist myself mentally, I'll do it, bro. Like, I'll push myself to do it. So yeah. Yeah.
100%, man. Super
We
proud
are
of
very
you.
proud, Chief. We are very proud.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that piece. Now that piece moved me into another thing: communication, gents. Guys, we as gentlemen suck at communication. I realize this.
Indeed, we do.
What do you mean by that?
So communication.
Wait. First, before you continue,
Yeah.
You just said how we as gents suck at communication. Do you think you, me, and Peter suck at communication? Because, Chief, we'll be talking for hours.
No, that's exactly what I'm coming for. Like, Rona, like right now, we are talking, right? We are talking about the feelings. We're talking about fun. We are there. We are talking. You and I can speak. It's fine. We are accustomed to each other. But when should I start speaking to strangers? Because as we started this broadcast, we did mention Ogotu, we are introverts, but that's not the problem. Problem comes when you have an important person in your life, right? Either you or the next person do something suckish, right? You don't like it, but you love and you respect that person. As an exercise, where does one start, like, communicating? Like, let's just see how you guys right now, right? That's the situation. Pills, let's say your mom, right? You love your mom, and then you see at some point. Where do you start that conversation?
It's a very difficult one because y'all know me from like a young age. I had this stigma of being a people pleaser. So my first instinct is to literally like say screw my own emotions and how I feel about the situation for someone else. But then some traumatic ish happened in between that moment and now, where I was like, you know what? I think people need to know how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, so especially when it's like my mom in that certain situation, that's probably the person I'm most closest to in like my family, because we had this type of conversation in the past where she was like, okay, after this traumatic event, we spoke and we're like, hey, Chief, you don't realize you didn't have to do this on your own, right? Like, you didn't have to carry this heavy of a burden just by yourself. Now, as your mother, I won't say it in front of you, but I fuck up every once in a while and like ish like that. So you kind of need to evaluate yourself in like that lens and like be able to move on with the good and the bad in you and call shit out that you're uncomfortable with. So ever since that day, if there generally is something that my mom, that I don't like what she's doing, we talk about it. Well, some this I'm a little uncomfortable with. Get into that dialogue, and she's like, I bet. And then we move like amicably speaking. But I do understand that there is situations there where that is very difficult to damn near impossible to do with some people. Especially like, let's say someone like you've grown seeing in this, not necessarily as an antagonist to your life, but it's someone like you've never really got along with, but for better or for worse, y'all are still in each other's lives. That type of situation can be very difficult, because I do have like that type of relationship with certain members of my family members where it's difficult to say like how I really feel, because it'll almost always just be dismissed as like, you're still young. It's not that big of a deal what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So that can get like unbelievably infuriating at times, but it is always important that you speak up. No matter how hard it gets, you kind of have to speak your truth.
what do you say to people who fear the consequences of it? Like, immediately as I approach someone that is close to me, like my mother, to aggravate what she has said or what she has done, like the consequences of her dismissing her love for me, or some sort of action like that, or with her saying, "Yazi ngani futek, I'm your mother, I'll do whatever I want." What would you say to like someone who fears the consequences? Because it's rooted in fear, or like what I believe. So like, is it then better to let time be the healer and then come back later and talk about it, or is there some other aspect that one can look at?
I think it's a bit difficult, but like one thing I just want to add, waiting for a later stage where you can heal from it, it's not the best way to go, because you're harboring that pain, that stress, that pressure on you, and you're suppressing it, and that doesn't help, because you're delaying the problem rather than trying to attack the problem head on. So as much as you want to get to a point where you can talk about these things, try your best not to suppress it and hide it. I know it's extremely difficult. Like, we were even talking about this a little bit earlier in the podcast, where we were talking about talking to family members or parents about difficult topics like black tax and stuff like that. Like, it's extremely hard to start that conversation. But at some point, that conversation has to be had, because at some point you're going to have your own family. You're going to have your own. Guys, we're in the crucial age where most people want to get married, and we can't go to these relationships, these marriages, without knowing these things and going to them blind. You understand? So I personally believe that it's hard to start these conversations, but try wherever you can. And if you're introverted and you don't like, because introverted people tend to want to avoid conflict. You know, I know this because I avoid conflict almost every day. But like, as much as you want to avoid that conflict because of your introverted nature, sometimes conflict is important because it will ease your conscience going forward. And the biggest thing is your conscience going forward, because if you're going to constantly overthink that particular subject or that particular situation, it's going to do more harm in the long term than in that temporary situation where you're like, let me avoid it and just leave the situation. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
There's two things I also want to add to that one. The first one with regards to, like, we are in the age now where, like, we're considering marriage, we're considering, like, settling down and stuff like that. There's a phrase I heard, like, not too long ago, I think back in 2020, about this type of thing, where it's like, if you're considering settling down with someone, examine how they treat their family, or how, like, their whole family, like, dynamic works. So for women especially, examine how your future husband treats his mom. No, like, for most guys, the mom is like our heart, my guys. So if like that relationship is strained, how you think it's going to treat your ass when you guys get married? That type of thing, you know. So it's like, it's very important to face, as hard as it is, because I am also an introvert. You gotta have to face confrontation once in a while. We can't always be running. And that's something my therapist also told me at some stage. Like, my boy, if you were in the Olympics, you probably would have beat Usain Bolt for running away from your problems. You can't run anymore. you literally can't run anymore. So that's like my philosophy on life. Now I'm literally going back, reopening old wounds, because like, there's things I'm still unhappy about, and I'm sure there's things my family's unhappy about me, but we need to talk about these things. But going back to like the scenario Mpho just mentioned now, it actually just reminded me of another phrase about therapy, where it's like, we go to therapy now because of people who should go to therapy. Let that sink in for a sec. That is a very
that's a bar. That's a bar, bro.
Thank you. But it's a very painful bar.
We are going. No, let's repeat it. We are going to therapy for people that should be in therapy. Like,
exactly.
Do you understand? Like, that's very layered, because let's truthfully, the reason why we're so messed up is because somebody did something messed up to us that we presume is messed. Like, okay, let me keep quiet.
Just gave your ass a bar, yeah. But yeah, like most situations, that's literally how it is. Back with that whole situation about like parent and like the child relationship is more one-sided. There's no outlet for like the kid at times. And imagine if it's a very abusive relationship, be it physical or like emotional, they have no outlet, and sometimes they run to the worst case scenario of like suicide. So that issue of therapy like really rings true, that like I'm not the only one who needs to be going there. All of y'all need to join me in like that movement. But then it's something else that I want to bring to answer your question. There are going to be times where like you can't reason with certain people. It's going to happen. And I found that like for our generation, I feel like our most favorite solution about that is to just dip, which I'm a bit conflicted about that for obvious reasons. I've been running my whole life, so now you want me to run again from this type of adversity. But sometimes cutting people off that, number one, aren't necessarily helping you. Number two, are just there to like always nitpick all of the things you're doing wrong. You could be the most perfect kid in the world, but then your mom or your uncle runs up and be like, you got 99% of your test. Where's the 1%, bitch? And like, no, we can't have like situations like that where constantly that happens. Which also brings true that like the minute kids like experience freedom, they never want to go back to like parents and stuff like that, because they've felt the strictness for like their entire lives, be it was for good or for bad, we may never know. But now that they've tasted this type of ish, they never want to go back to how things were. So depending like on your situation as a person, and I'd like to preface this that we are not medical practitioners. If literally this part triggers you, please go see a therapist. They might give you like the professional consultation that you need. In most cases, yes, if the situation allows for it, you gotta dip, yo. But if not, then you have to confront this head on.
Yeah.
So basically, do what's best for you. Basically,
do what's best for you. Because only at the end of the day, only you know what's best for you.
Yeah.
And maybe like with a little nudge from like the right people, like a therapist, for instance. Hey, we need to get sponsored by some therapists, yo.
Yeah, bro.
I think we should get like a resident therapist on the show, you know. Somebody, the moment you get into these topics, will be like, Chief, so, like, on the topic of therapists, guys, my therapist dipped on me last year.
What?
Exactly.
My therapist ghosted me, dog.
Chester.
Yo, dog, I was so hurt, man.
Yo.
Yeah, he just ghosted me. Like, he just stopped answering my emails and my calls. I was like, guys, I know I'm broke, man, but at least respond to the email, bro. It was tough.
Why? Like, what was the build up to that?
All I'm saying is that maybe I'm too fucked up. Like, maybe I was just like, I need to run away from you.
I need to see a therapist for this shit. Yeah.
Nah, we need to get you a professional.
So basically, the therapist needed a therapist for me.
Yeah.
Okay, that was some hectic. And at this point, Chief, it's fine. And I'll go back. I'll go back to the therapist in my hometown. It's fine, guys.
I appreciate the work.
Mpho, I have a question for you, Chief.
Oh
no, let Phila finish first.
Oh yeah, but it's a quick one for me. I really appreciate the work therapists do for us, Shem, or at least the ones that can afford it. It's a very thankless but a beautiful job. I've told you guys before about my therapist, which I really need to go back to in due time. But essentially, I love her approach to how like she handles my conflicts and situations, because she's just there on some looking at you. This is your life. All I can help you is to guide you in the direction that you need to go to. So I ain't gonna tell you an answer. That's supposed to come from you.
Yeah.
I'll just lead you in like this direction that you are certain that you want to go to, and I appreciated like that type of approach that she took. So yeah, guys, if you need help, hit up your local therapist.
Yeah, therapist.
Highly recommend it.
No, I'll take that advice because man, I don't have a therapist.
If you don't have a therapist,
No.
They're online now.
If you need therapy, in Bloemfontein, hit me up. There's this dope therapist here. Yeah, legend, that guy.
But
Is
if
it
you
the
have
guy that
a
ghosted
stable
you?
Connection.
What did Mpho say?
He's like, is it the guy that ghosted you?
No, it's another one. No, this one he physically cannot ghost me simply because I know he lives. Okay, that sounded very wrong.
Yeah, like, do you have him in the basement or something? Like, you will listen to my problems and give me solutions today.
You gonna fix my shit today, man. Yes. Wow. But if you have a stable connection in your area, you can do online therapy because that's what I did.
Emuna, no, I want the sofa, bro. I want to lie in the sofa. Like,
You want
that's the only reason I want to go to therapy. But yeah,
Buy a sofa and lie there when you talk to your therapist.
yeah,
Wow, I want the sofa.
yeah. Oh man, Mohale hit me up, right? You have a
sofas.
question?
You guys got sofas. Now they put me on a chair. You know that standard chair? Yeah, plastic.
Joe,
That one you get at funerals.
Chassis. No wonder that nigga ran away.
I knew this wasn't gonna last long.
No, bro. Chassis.
Wow.
Hey, bro, I should have seen the red flags from the beginning.
Hey, bro.
I should have been there like in all these American shows with therapists. They lied
Jesus.
to me. I was expecting like a brown couch where he or she's sitting on the side with a notepad and everything, crossed legs on some. How are you today? See what this nigga did? Like I entered there, then he was like, "From fit." I should have known, bro. I should have known. Man.
Thanks for your time. I'll pay you for the full amount to not attend.
Chassis. Yeah.
Hey man, but like the key thing here is that for me it's a matter of he did assist me in that situation. It's just that I needed additional assistance and it was year end, so I think they had already closed.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he ghosted me. But at that point I was already like, this nigga ghosted me. So now I'm bringing you guys content for something that might not actually be real. So it is what it is.
Fair point. He ghosted you to pursue his own mental decisions by taking a break, getting off the beach, ghost my clients who might need severe help immediately, and then
Life goes on.
All I'm saying, I just needed, you see, going back to what Mpho said, like, I just needed communication. You should have just, like, I am on holiday, I will see you next year.
Yeah.
That's communication. I'll be like, I will stress you next year, my guy. Just
all
need a
right.
therapist in the meantime, my boy.
Yeah. Or even like refer you to one of his colleagues or something like that.
Yeah, but man, it is what it is. We are still alive, we are still making poetry, we're still making them cry.
Still making them cry. It's our number one goal for this podcast.
Definitely.
And so far, 2 out of 2 so far.
Yeah, nah, definitely. Pills, dog. It's up to you now, bruh. We made
Didn't you
them.
have a second piece?
No. I'll share that one after.
Oh, so it's the final gut punch, eh?
Yeah, we make sure.
Ah, excellent.
You see, even Mpho saying that he's gonna make sure. Just know,
I need to refill on my tissues because I'm afraid of that line. But yeah, it is what it is. So for me, it's a bit of a lengthy one, maybe like medium-ish in length. So I wrote this one last year because apparently someone at work found out I could sing and do poetry. So they were like in a meeting, and I quote, "Phila can perform poetry. He'll perform on Friday." And I'm like,
just like
okay.
that.
Just like that, and I proceeded to perform on Friday and made every single person in that meeting cry. So it's one hell of an achievement.
All I'm saying is you flew the healing therapy flag very high.
You know, most
We
represent.
We thank you. Ons. What is it in Afrikaans? Ons mark what? Ish, guys. I need to Google this.
Ish.
Yeah.
I know I'm the fact checker for this group, but I ain't fact checking that.
You must fact check that.
Now, please don't speak to me about Afrikaans, guys. I failed Afrikaans in high school, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Just,
Grade 11.
I have grade school Afrikaans now, like the old bluff, that,
Yes. Yes.
Look at us butchering the hell out of these languages right now.
Never fit.
Strong one.
The what?
The strong one.
Ah, man, but you haven't been to gym in a while, Chief.
Not that type of strength when
I was.
Strong one. You know, life can be cruel at times. I still can't find the words to portray how I felt when I lost you that day. If I can say, it's like I lost my anchor that kept me from floating away. It's like I lost my shield that kept my enemies at bay. You were always the strong one, so why couldn't you stay? Without you, will I ever find my way? You know, life can be cruel at times. The mere thought of how a loved one leaving my life can sway my decisions this much is a cruel joke life can play. I once heard that we can't choose who comes into our lives, but we can decide who stays. We leave it to fate to dictate our path, but somehow ended up losing our way. I try to save face and try to downplay the emotions I felt that day. I try to run to a safe space and recover, but fixate and discover the horrors that lay. I was never meant to be the strong one. So why is this my role to play? Lord, why did you ask me to guide so many when I thought I was led astray? I thought I had no direction in place, laying in wait, hoping someone else would lead the way. I couldn't understand why you wanted me to stay, until today. Life can be beautiful at times. I was reminded that even though I lost you, you're still with me to this day. This one particular interaction set me ablaze with the emotion she conveyed. She thanked me for the strength I displayed. She said it made it easier for her to find her way. It instantly clicked, so I decided to say, your strength has imparted into me, and for that I could never repay. I wrote this poem thinking about how I lost a person so close to me. I always wondered if I became the man you dreamed I would be. But today I realized that your words still live with me. Your influence still shows in every person that I meet, every words that I speak. So this lesson I always keep. To have your strength is what I always seeked. I'm still a long way to go, you see. But I am becoming the strong one you've always wanted me to be. And that's me.
Forgive me, guys. I'm taking a moment.
No, trust, I can hear you. I can hear the both of you. Are you guys okay?
No, bro, we are crying, dog. What the hell?
Skis.
Hey, man, that man. Good, but do you understand how painful that is?
This is painful, bruh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I literally wrote this about like my granddad. Last year, and it was like 10 years now since he passed away, and I think it kind of led to like the ramifications of how my family is now. So it was like nice to kind of look back and beyond some. I hope at least like I managed to be the strong person you always wanted me to be.
Yeah.
It's an everyday struggle. Obviously, it's not like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, I am a soldier for mental health, and physical health.
Batman.
I am Adonis. Like no, it's never gonna happen that way. But like these little victories and like these little flags that we put out just to remind ourselves like how far we've come. I know the both of you have also been through some shit in the past, but you're still here because you're also strong people.
Yeah.
So I want you to remember that as well, that we are strong people going through some shit, but we're still here.
Like, one thing I want to highlight is like there's this thing that I call like the curse of the strong people, or it's also like the curse of the capable people, you know. It's like whenever you're called to do something, like there's this I can get there, yeah. Like people are drawn to you because they know you're capable of doing so many things, you understand? And at some point, always being called to assist or to be busy to do certain things, it puts a strain on you. So, like me personally, like me listening to your poem, it makes me reflect on that. Like there were times in my life of which you, Phila, and Mpho have seen in that episode of my life, like I felt strained. I felt like, have you ever felt like you're in a position where you're just doing things, but your mind isn't there? Like you're not present in the things that you're doing, but your body is just automatically moving, and you feel like you're non-existent from your body.
Yeah.
Like
Literally moving at muscle memory at that point.
It just quick side note. Have you guys noticed, like, when you're driving, like more often than not, it's like muscle memory carrying the driving, and your mind is elsewhere. Or is it just me? Because like most of the time, I find myself driving. I'm just there, like at some point, I just like, yo, can't I'm driving? Is it just me?
No, dog.
Everybody else.
It's true, bro. It's true.
Just like disclaimer, people focus on driving.
No, I don't mean like in a bad way. Like I feel like once you've driven for so long in your life, that like it's just muscle memory. You're present in the sense that you do still check your left side, your right side before turning. You do everything normally, but it's like you're not there physically. Like your brain is thinking about something else.
You're in hyperdrive.
You're in hyperdrive. Like it's the weirdest thing, but and it happens too often. Yeah, some psychologists or some researchers must research that ish, because I feel like that's hella crazy. But getting back to what I was saying, like this guy's laughing. Getting back to what I was saying, like it you get to a point where people perceive you as a strong one, and more often than not, it's not that we're strong; it's just we're hanging in there. And I think the sad part is that people don't see that we're just hanging in there because we have this facade. Like going back to what I said about the philosopher and saying, well, this is the face that you show to the world. Like you have this brave face on, but honestly speaking, as much as really Maji, the Wajins and indoor and everything, but like nobody's truly strong. We just act like it because that's all we can do. That's what is perceived and expected of us. And like what I get from the poem is that this is what was expected of your uncle, your father, your grandfather, all the men in your life, and also your mothers, your grandmothers, everybody. It's just what's expected. You have to be the strong one, and all we can hope in the end is that we become the strong people that we think they thought we should be.
Just a side note, Brian, I feel like this is a nice tangent that we should have, maybe not today, but maybe in a different podcast episode. That stereotype where, like, when you're the friend that everyone always runs to, who do you run to when you go through the most?
Healing therapy. That's where you run to.
Yes.
Well, yes, now.
It's very simple. You log on to Spotify, you search healing therapy, and you listen.
You find us.
You find us, right? We're here for you.
That's all you have to do.
And the other man, oh yeah, Pills. Beautiful poem, dog. My take from it. Life is fucked up. You gotta be strong. Honestly. But the strength that you keep is brought on by your ancestors, right? That's what I'm getting from this. And through that, you are able to postulate, you're able to show me who Phila is by the strength of your grandfather. Because right now, I don't think we would have been in a position where we are able to be vulnerable if it wasn't because of your grandfather, if it wasn't because of the conversations we had, if it wasn't because he was vulnerable enough to show you how strong he was, you wouldn't be here. So I think the history of the strong man has become, has become Hollywooded. Like, we are making it American, guys. If you see a movie and behind, like, you don't see behind the scenes, right? You just see the tough guy who's like killing people everywhere, and he never gets tired for like a whole hour, dog. Like Lomchita is just on gun blazing, NK-47, all those nice guns. Anyway, we have never gotten to a point where we see behind the scene where that guy sleeps for like 5 days after that scene, after a couple of scenes. And so, like, how do we get to a point where we are vulnerable and weak enough to show and to express the small weakness points in life? And like you asked, like, who do we share it with? And my answer to that would be, like, should one not share it to the people he's closest with? And those people don't have to be alive. They can be your grandfather. Like the poem you wrote, I don't believe that poem was for us. It wasn't, meant for any of us who's alive right now. So yeah, I think it's just going back to like sharing with the closest person to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. I'm with it. I do appreciate the legacy that he left for us back here. Like, it has been a huge source of like inspiration. Even like my mom, I showed her this poem, and like after the flood of tears, we got to talk about it again. And like, we also got closer because of like this joint legacy our grandfather left for us. So I really appreciate what he's done for us so far. And a quick tangent, as you know me very well with my tangents. I do think, the perception of like what a strong man is in like Hollywood or like these films and movies and like anime to a certain degree is changing.
Yeah. No, it is. But our generation still has that in mind. Like the strong guy is the one that's always on.
You get to see a lot of strong niggas like shed a tear sometimes, or like genuinely portray how they feel about that situation. And I love like that direction it's going. All we have to do is like be open and accepting about this type of direction, you know, because there will always be pushback to any change of like status quo. But I also don't feel comfortable on like how like a minority of people have to break their backs or like to essentially damn near kill themselves for like the rest of the population. Something about that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, even one part of the population, it's not worth it, man.
Exactly. So I am happy that at least now it's getting more represented. That hey guys, niggas cry too sometimes.
Yeah, bro.
You go through some shit, niggas cry too.
I'm saying is make crying fashionable, guys. Sometimes you need to cry. You need to make it fashionable. Sometimes you need to cry, guys. It's tough out there.
Yeah, you know, it's
even like you know, like when we were growing up and everything, like it was always like meant to be like a situation where like as a man you are not allowed to cry during a movie. But dog, shed that tear, dog. It was tough. Shed that tear, bro. And like we all cried in Endgame. That's fine.
That is true. That is true, bro.
I'll take this step further. Me, I cried during like Fast and Furious 7 when they were doing that shit where Paul goes his own direction and then the whole.
Phila, why do you have to remind us about that one, Chief? I get it.
Like we must cry together, guys.
We must cry together.
Yeah, when I rolled my eyes out at like that theater, I was like, Jesus.
Yo,
and then the screen goes white, and then it just says for Paul, and then
in that moment, bro, I'm like,
there wasn't a dry eye in the whole cinema after that scene. I'm like, Jesus. I saw a buff white nigga cry his heart out, and I was like, I feel you, man.
I feel you, dog. Yo, guys, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, as we all are actually. So when Endgame, when that young boy was like, dude.
That's Infinity War, by the way.
Oh shit! Sorry, I'm so sorry. Kill me now.
Fact checking, bitch. Yo, listen, that was very traumatic, and like the extra ad lib that Tom Holland Spider-Man put into that scene just
dog. And apparently you're like,
well, you know that scene was not scripted, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like he just took it on. Yeah.
He just like was just like.
It's like I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
I don't feel so good. No, dog. Like, man, now you see now I need to watch Infinity War again. Like I need to.
Now I need to watch it 5 times again because I forgot its names as punishment.
That boy broke my soul, guys. And just a side note, I know I did mention like before we started recording, but it is Spider-Man's birthday this month. Homie's turning 60.
Yeah.
Wait, you said this year. You didn't say this month, brah. You need to.
I said this year.
Dude, fact check yourself, bro.
I said.
Please check yourself.
Dude, please respect us. Respect us.
That's the nice thing. There's no proof of me being wrong in my fact check, so you have that. Moral of the story, this is the year Spider-Man turned 60.
Mpho, we have a problem, Chief. You can see he's already ruling with power. We need to limit his power.
No, it's fine, bruh. We have Google. Google will replace him very quickly.
Does anybody have a smartphone, say an iPhone? You must be like, Siri, Siri, chief, fact check, please. Because
Siri
wow.
lies.
Yeah.
Siri lies.
Yeah. Well,
Siri lies very much. I
Phila,
appreciate, like,
we'll also fact check that lie of yours, but it's fun.
let me actually check, like, on what month did the first Spider-Man comic get released?
Oh, you can fact check that. Hey, Mpho, chief.
Yeah, you had a question for me, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, you're making me mumble now. Chief, we are still waiting for the final piece of the episode, so...
Yeah.
Before he does, I found it.
It just says you need a promotion. That was too quick.
So, created by writer and editor Stan Lee and artist
Yeah,
Spider-Man
Stanley.
first appeared in the anthology comic book by Amazing Fantasy number 15 of August 1962 in the Silver Age of comic books.
So, Phila, August to you is actually February.
Basically. This guy.
Again, there is no proof of me saying that.
Mm-hmm.
These are just accusations. These are just accusations.
My man, this is a live recording, bruh. I can literally go back.
Now, you didn't record what I said at the beginning when we had our meeting before this.
Yes, I hate this guy.
So there is no proof. I am a fact-checking mogul. Holla at your boy.
Mpho, I would like to start a resolution to kick Phila out of the podcast. I think we should look for a new way.
Nah, bro. We'll find Zippo, dog. He's quite good at this shit, so it's cool. Definitely.
If Zippo can turn in, it's the four of us, then I support. But me, I am going nowhere. Denied.
Denied.
Mpho, you can run it. Let's hear the final poem.
Yeah. So Pills, you actually, did a young voice on this one. I don't know if you wanna play that voice. It's on Rose. It's on Rose.
Yeah.
If you go to Rose,
Can I recite it?
Yeah, recite it. I think that's better because of the audio. It will be an audio issue if you're playing it. So rather recite it.
all right.
Like, I always love reciting like Mpho's poetry. Jesus.
All right. When you get to WhatsApp,
I
there.
feel like I have three sides of my brain every time I read Mpho. Not two, but three. I have a right side, left side, and a middle side that comes out just for these moments. So wait, it's the fan mail one, yeah?
No, not that one. It was on the 16th of December 2020. Just search tipping point.
2020, Jesus.
Yeah.
You can tell we've been writing poetry for years.
Hey, bruh.
Yeah. And the reason we have those podcasts is because people stumble on our poetry and they're like, nigga, eat this shit, eat this shit. And then we're just there like, and now we here.
If they knew, we do.
So technically, healing therapy was established in 2019.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, indeed it was. Okay, I found your poem called After Simmer's Death Note. Ne?
Yeah.
Good. Let me enter my inner.
Go into the center brain, chief.
I'm activating it now as we speak. Opening the third eye, opening my center brain. Let's get it.
Yeah. Before you go on, the topic or the subject or the name Simmer was taken from a book, Tipping Point. The guy is a very famous author. Before we go on, I actually have one of his books here. I have David and Goliath right now. That's the one I'm going to proceed to read. But his name is Malcolm Gladwell. So if you know the guy, he's a very beautiful author. Not beautiful facially. Okay. He tries. He tries, guys. He
You
tries.
need to edit that out.
But anyway, he's quite beautiful in his writing. And this piece was taken from what he presented about Simmer. So yeah, hit it.
After Simmer's death note, tipping point. No suffering. This is no death note, just a simple understanding of Simmer's point of view. Pain has become an important part of our lives. It seems to motivate us for more, be it more pain or success. Now, I am not saying dismiss it, no. It has only just become clear to the ignorant. And so with this, you must know that I see your pain. Your point of suffering is obvious now. They all demand too much, don't they? They have given no value and yet they take your life. Even through your death, they will eat and plow on your grave. Anyways, with this letter, you should know that your point of suffering is obvious now. Your family is too big to handle. They hang you on the string of their needs. They kill you slow and steady. But don't worry, because your point of suffering is obvious now. Eating at me is the way they are so ignorant. They don't even see your value though. All so selfish, too cowardly to make their own paths, too cowardly to make time for you and your needs. Oh Lord, how your suffering pains me, but it's okay now that I see your point of suffering. Now it's been a while since you laid eyes on me, simply looked at me and smiled. Now I know when you saw me, you gave me the name they. But don't worry now. Tomorrow you will have none of them to worry about. They see your point of suffering now. Yeah. Mpho.
Yeah.
Hi, Papa.
So that is it for this podcast. Thank you, guys.
We're going to talk about this. Slow your roll, nigga. Wait. Yeah.
I feel like I thought we were gonna start with like such a light-hearted episode, like something chill, just to ease people in, and then we just came in with the hardest shit ever, bruh.
We came guns blazing. We make them cry for a reason. God damn. I know when Paul said he has 2 poems, I'm like, Jesus, let me grab another roll of tissues because Lord. Loud. Yo, dude, I'm about to pull a very huge ass English word out my ass, but this is very poignant.
Thank you,
beautiful,
Papa.
and like, yeah.
Thank you,
What
Papa.
does that even mean? Poignant?
Yeah, man, another point it's poignant.
Hang on, for Mohale, I will give you, since I'm the fact checker here, this poignant means he's invoking a keen sense of sadness or regret with this poem. And that is very, very true. This is painful. And like, when you keep repeating that, but don't worry, they know you're suffering now. I'm like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm for go rap for Top Dog Entertainment, please.
Hey dog,
We'll be a ghostwriter.
I'll be a ghostwriter. Thank you. Thank you, Nademal. I'll be a ghostwriter because that's what I'm good for. I can't remember my own lyrics. Like I'll be there listening to the song. I'm like, oh shit, who came up with this shit? Yeah.
But yeah, from literally the first thing we spoke about, this still rings true.
Yeah, it summarizes what we talked about today. Everything.
In a big way.
Mm.
And then you're like, thank you for coming to the podcast. Nah, fuck that shit. We need to heal. We need to talk about this.
Yeah, so
give us a space. Give us the opportunity to heal because this space is for healing and we need therapy. We need the therapy. So give us that wisdom. Like the where was your point of view? Where was like, as much as I hear the inspiration was from the book, like where was your mind at, like to actually want to portray it in such a way?
Yeah. So I think at the point in life where I was at, there was a point of depression, right? And like that's when I started with work. You know, with work, with school is fine. You get to deal with yourself, like you deal with work and like and your books. That's it. For an introvert, that is the best world you can ever live in. And then they put me up to work, and then they're like, you gotta deal with people too. I'm like, what? Dude, I've been learning about rocks, dog. You told me I'm gonna work with rocks. Keep your promises. So the beginning of work wasn't nice for me, dog. So I got in a state of depression. And then I wanna thank one of my mentors, Jason, and he brought on the thing of reading like a lot of books, because thank God I found someone who's exactly like me mentally. And also it's a good thing and a bad thing because we kind of come together and we clash almost every time, So it's beautiful and ugly at the same time. But anyway, at the point when I was reading Mr. Claro's book, I got to a point where he presented Sima, right? And Sima is a young boy, just you like me, like you and me. He was just living his life, and then out of nowhere, because of some resistance in life, he hung himself immediately without any explanation. So he was presenting that point, and from Sima, he was projecting different viewpoints of people. At least that's how I was understanding the book. And so I sat back a moment and I'm like, what is my perspective from Sima? Like, I see this young boy. He was a young boy too. Like, he was fairly young. I think he killed himself over finances, like a Turan or something. But anyway, I got to a point where I'm thinking, how deprived are we of emotions from the people around us? Phila, did you get that? Yeah. So I'm thinking, if I'm so deprived, or I'm thinking, like, remember, I'm in a state of depression here. So this is another point in life where I'm going through shit, and this is the first time I share it publicly. I just want to make that a disclaimer. So this is a point where I'm in a state of depression, and no one really knows about it, right? I don't think even you guys knew about it, and I think it's a gift for the first podcast for me to come out and say this. Not come out, Phila. No, don't. I'm not coming out.
Why are you directing this at me?
Your choice of words,
Yeah, so words, unbelievably. I think what you're looking for is, this is the first time I've opened up about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That.
Way to fact check me, bruh, but it's fine.
I'm fact checking you now.
Yeah. So I'm in that state, and I'm thinking, where do I start if I'm feeling so, right? And Sima was presented as this young boy who took his life. Am I Sima? Am I at a point where I can go heavily and say this is the end point? And immediately, as I started saying that, my family came up. They came rushing into my head. I think my ancestors got angry or some shit like that. So I started thinking again, but I have family. I have my mother. I still have my father, my stepfather. And I'm like, there are so many people in my life that I can try and hit up and talk to them about it. But they are also distant, And from that day on, I started trying to spend a bit more time with my mother, trying to talk about, just silly things and all that. And so from that point on, and like this is the space I was in at the time. Like, I'm depressed, and I need some of them. I need these people around my life, not just to be bloodsuckers taking imali or taking things that I provide as a man, but I need support. I need emotional support. I need spiritual support, and I do need like mental support. And I think that's where you guys came in, because when we started the podcast, or like the pre-planning of the podcast, I told you that none of this shit is for finances. It's literally about me, being vulnerable to my friends, being there for my friends, just yeah. So it's getting emotional for me, because this was a deep point in my life where I'm like, shit, I'm going through hell, and everyone seems to be in heaven, even though I'm crying out, no one is hearing anything. Like, it seems like we're so distant, bruh, and like it seemed the people who are alive were not responding, and the dead were just silent, as they always are. So when I wrote that, I was like, you know what, Sima dog, I'm here and I'm understanding your viewpoint, bro. And thank God you were here to go through this with me. I'm sorry you lost your life, but right now I'm taking ownership of mine. And that's when Day came in. That's where he gave me the name Day. You know, so yeah. That was that.
That is freaking beautiful, bruh.
Yeah.
There's a case in point of like art influencing more art, first and foremost, because that's freaking amazing that you could find, first of all, your own way out of your head, man. And then like to be able to give you that push to talk to someone as well. I think that's a very beautiful process.
Yeah.
Very painful, but a very beautiful one as well.
Yeah.
I have stated before that like the type of poetry we write, it's like I love the end result being like the poetry and what we put out in the world, but I hate like the process that we have to make to get like that type of ish, because like this has to take us to some very dark places. Like in our psyche and stuff like that. But I guess it is places that we have to go, because the end of it all, this is about like healing for us, like the three of us as well.
Yeah.
Bringing us closer, being vulnerable is such a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Dadamale, you're not crying too hard, right? Are you okay?
Are you okay over there?
I'm okay, Chief. I'm okay. I'm just like there's a specific book we read in matric. I know some schools you end up reading these books a year earlier or whatever, so it's possible it might be a grade 11 book, but it's a book. Yeah.
Animal Farm.
Yeah.
Is it Animal Farm?
It's a book. It's based, I think, in London, and it's like in a dark time. It has heavy dark themes. But it's about this little girl and the father. I think the father of the grandfather, and like I'm just having these similarities. Like the stuff was like I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the book. I'll probably remember it literally when we stop recording this. But like the theme I'm getting from the poem and like your explanation of where your mind is at, it's giving me like those same themes that I received from reading the book. Like so, like I can't add anything now because I can't remember the name of the book, and I don't remember the names of the characters in the book specifically.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember like the general feel and the general feel of the characters themselves.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So like I want to add something, but I need to liken it to the book, and I can't find the name of the book.
Yeah.
It's not Animal Farm. It's not something like Macbeth. It's not something written by Shakespeare.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. You know, so like it's difficult for me to find the name of the book, but as soon as I find it, I'll let you know.
All right, sounds good. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it for today. Thank you so much to my man. Isn't Mpho who this Mohale hosting today? Someone hosted, because like I feel like the person who introduced us is the host.
Yeah.
And you introduced us.
In that case, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. I've been Mohale Matala, my co-host Phila and Mpho. We hope you have a pleasant day, enjoy, and signing out.
When I'm on my ancestors will haunt you, Chief. And oh, is it W should kill you, Chief, the man.
Chief, I asked you at the beginning of the podcast how do I pronounce it properly, and you didn't answer me. So obviously
I corrected you, bro. But as always, Phila was louder.
No one will say our own names.
Okay, please and thank you. So thank you for everybody that has been listening to the podcast today. I've been Mohale Matlala.
I'm Phila,
and I'm Mpho.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Signing out.
Bye, y'all.
Sweetness.